Where does FlyQuest go from here?
Mm.
Are there improvements to be made? How do we look at this roster now? That's always a question that's going to come up after an NA team in particular bows out at Worlds. The only contract that's up is Santorin. His contract is up in November. He is a free agent unless an announcement comes before that. Everybody else is signed beyond this season. So obviously trades can happen, whatever the case may be. But when you look at this roster, their performance at Worlds and just NA in general, we have to also factor in that they were the most consistent team in the LCS all year, right? 2 grand finals appearances in spring and summer, top three placements in regular season in spring and summer. They were the most consistent team across the board in the LCS across both splits. Is that enough? With a group stage bow out going 3-3, 2 of those wins coming when it didn't matter. What do you do if you're FlyQuest GM, Tyler?
All right, so let's play this together. We'll play this together, Arthur. We're GMs. We're in the room. You know, we're discussing like, okay, what would she do? We decide Power Evil to like a 12-year contract, right? We just like lock him down, like Power Evil.
Just throwing money at him.
Well, yeah, let's just lock you down, buddy. Let's like you are the core of the team. Like you're the ace of the team. Let's build around Power Evil for the future, right?
Okay.
I think Tristan has shown that he is committed to North America. I've heard no issues from any of his teams. He's a hard worker. When we look at, we're going to talk about this later, as the overall North American issues of importing and scouting, and you know, some players coming for money, some players coming here to actually improve the region and improve as a player. I think Tristan is a player who's shown time and time again that he really does care about getting to Worlds and doing well at Worlds. So I would be fine locking up Tristan.
Does he become a resident? Does he become a resident this year? Like how does that he's been in NA for a while now, since 2017, right? Like, does he get his residency at some point?
I think it's another year. So
okay,
that also helps in his favor, right? Like he's a year away from becoming a resident. Like lockdown Power Evil. Like there's no reason to even Jensen's a free agent, but Power Evil showed he's just as good as Jensen in this tournament, and I think you don't want to shake something that's bad. So
we're keeping Power of Evil. PoE is not going anywhere.
Not
down with PoE. Yeah, you know me. Got it.
Yeah,
cool.
Got it.
Top lane solo.
That's the spot where I think a lot of people are going to be pointing to and saying, if you're going to change something on FlyQuest, it would have to be solo.
Why I was asking was because you know who is available right now is the top laner for Supermassive.
Armu.
Yeah, but FlyQuest already have 2 imports, and that's why I was asking about PoE. I didn't know. So if PoE and Ignar are still imports, then that wouldn't be possible.
I think there's enough top lane talent in North America. There's Fudge for C9 Academy. Now he's a resident because the old OPL's dead. Everyone, all the Australian and New Zealanders are now NA players. So Fudge would not count as an import. I think Fudge, if you brought in Fudge, he would be an upgrade. And I think, again, I think Solo deserves a chance to start. Like, I think you keep Solo. He's a smart player. He's a veteran. I think worst case scenario, he becomes a 6-man. And you work him in if a younger player and have him learn from Solo, or you move him back to a positional coach, because that's the crazy thing, right? Like Solo came to FlyQuest as a coach. He was not supposed to be a player. Viper was the starter. He was supposed to be an assistant coach, and it just worked into his favor that he got got a chance to play, and they looked better with him, and then they just wrote it out. So I think top lane is a position you would want to strengthen. I think Solo is a good team fighter. I think he's a solid laner. I think he's solid all around. But if you want to take the next step as FlyQuest, I think you might want to bring in a younger player to, have him compete for the starting job, or have Solo be the 6-man and learn from him. So I think there was Fudge. I think Fake God. Fake God has improved a lot on 100 Thieves Academy. He did not look the greatest when he was in the LCS, but again, as someone, I remember I profiled Fake God at the scouting grounds 2 years ago, and this was a kid who was like low diamond before he went to scouting. Like he was a super scholar. Like his parents had him doing like cram school, all that. So he had never had time to play League of Legends. He really wasn't a big League of Legends player until he had a summer off from going into college. He finally didn't have to go to cram school. He actually had he was a kid for once. And he got time to play. And from that summer, he went from like low diamond to like challenger. He's really a freak of nature when it comes to potential. And I think Fake God's a player that I think if he gets another starting job in the LCS, he has a chance to become, a Licorice style player where he can grow into being one of the best players in the top lane role. So Fake God, there's Fudge, Tenacity. I think there's a few players out there in the top lane that if FlyQuest wants to make a big move, they could. And I think the top lane pool isn't as dried up as previous years. I think there's a lot of talent in the academy in the top lane. So yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if FlyQuest jumped on one of those players.
And I'll be honest, I don't know too much about FlyQuest Academy team, but their top laner Revenge is signed until 2021.
Revenge is also another. Revenge used to be like the number one NA prospect back in the day. He was like this, everyone was like, "Oh, when is Revenge going to go pro?" And then Revenge announced that he was going to go into being a surgeon. From what I remember, of he was going to quit. He was going to quit playing League of Legends to become a surgeon. And obviously, he came back to League of Legends. Now he is, a pro player. So yeah, Revenge is another player where if you want us, play around the youth, play around, a newer talent, Revenge is also a player. Like there's a lot of young top laners in NA that I think FlyQuest could bring up. And I don't think this is a position of like just kick out Solo, because I think Solo have proved that he went 3-3 at Worlds against, guys like 369, Doran, Boss, like not slouches, especially 369. So I think he's earned a chance to compete for a spot. And in worst case scenario, he's a great mentor and he's a great coach for the team. So I do think, though, that you can bolster the top lane a little.
So let's talk bot lane now. Ignar, probably a lock, right? Like, we're not moving Ignar. Now, here's the thing. With the bot lane, we have Wild Turtle. He's signed until 2022. Mash is up. So, and we did see them switch back and forth a little bit. So Wild Turtle did get some time in FlyQuest Academy in the summer split to work on a few things, and then did come back and was deemed to be improved. So he stayed on the team. He is a seasoned veteran. I mean, Mash has some years too, but like, what about that bot lane? Do we stick with Wild Turtle? Do we do the Mash Wild Turtle combination again, or do we look elsewhere?
Well, I think one of the spiciest things we can probably bring up about the bot lane is that during the spring to summer off season, FlyQuest was one of the leading teams for double lift. Aside from TSM, I believe Jacob Wolf reported that FlyQuest was right up there as a team that really wanted double lift. Mr. Double Lift is now a free agent. Coming out of this tournament, but like we can even ask chat like right now, if you were going to pick between Wild Turtle and Double Lift, would you trust more? Like,
oh my word!
I mean,
oh boy!
Like, who would you want right now, Wild Turtle or Double Lift? After watching both their performances at Worlds, and I don't think Double Lift. I don't think again, not bot centric meta, not meta where you're exactly. Apparently, from my producers telling me that Double Lift signed a 2-year contract, so. Again, everything.
There could be trades. I mean, especially after Worlds, there could absolutely be trades. We don't know necessarily if I believe that he did sign a contract to stay with TSM. I think it was back in April. So. But here's the thing, though. I mean, whether his contract is up or not.
I mean, he was a contract. He had a contract with Team Liquid. We saw what. The contracts don't matter.
It doesn't matter. Like the thing is that trades can happen. I think the more general question we should ask here is, who do you think that FlyQuest will make a change at AD carry? I think that's the question.
I don't think so. I think Wild Turtle proved himself at this World Championship, especially in the last 2 games. And he also is like. I think Tristan, Power of Evil is the ace of the team, the core that you build around. But I think the face of the franchise is Wild Turtle. I mean, I remember last year, FlyQuest sent reporters to the World Championship, and it was like the 3 main big, English-speaking reporting outlets at Worlds 2019 were ESPN, me, and Emily Rand. It was Travis Gafford Industries, Travis Gafford, Broden Plett, the TGI guys, and Travis, and the third was FlyQuest, and you know who the reporter was at the World Championship, Arda?
Who?
Wild Turtle. They sent Wild Turtle as the reporter to do interviews at the World Championship. He is FlyQuest. Amazing. He is the guy who does a little bit of everything for the brand. I think he is an amazing guy. I think he's someone who is really easy to play with. He's flexible. He's a player that doesn't get too down on himself. He's a hard worker. I think, again, they try and mash this split, and then Mash had a really good academy stats, and he was really doing well in scrim, so they brought in Mash. But Wild Turtle won his spot there. I think at the World Championship, he performed well. And, he always had this stigma against him of that he's too wild, he's too flash happy. He tries to make too big of a play. He always looks a bit too silly. And he had some of those moments at the World Championship, but those moments also turned out to be some of the best moments for FlyQuest. And overall, I think he was solid. Nothing to write home about. He wasn't the star of the team. That was Power of Evil. I think even Ignar and Santorin had some bigger moments, but he performed well in lane. He got some solo lane kills. He almost solo lane killed in the first game versus TES. Wild Turtle is synonymous with me for FlyQuest. So
yeah, he's an identity guy, right? He's an identity guy.
I keep the bottom lane the same. I think Wild Turtle has earned it. Again, it could be a situation where you want to bring in a younger talent. If you want to bring a younger academy talent to maybe do a 7-man roster, an 8-man roster, where Wild Turtle's teaching the next generation, I think that's fine.
Like if there was a guy like Tactical, Tactical's obviously staying with Team Liquid, but imagine there was another Tactical type player that was available. I can see FlyQuest considering that.
I mean, there was Johnson, and both those guys were on TSM, and then they both left. And TSM.
Johnson, man, we haven't talked about Johnson in a while. Don't you have to dye your hair, by the way?
Yeah, we'll do that when quarantine's done. We'll dye.
I mean, there's so many things we've forgotten about over the months on Rift Rewind. But anyway, okay, so that's what we think in terms of FlyQuest. I honestly, if this team comes back exactly the same, I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe Santorin only if he wants to go elsewhere.
Keep Santorin. Keep Santorin.
If they sign him, great. But if there's one team, well, maybe Team Liquid as well. But maybe what we should be saying is TSM is the one most likely to change from the teams at Worlds and NA. But yeah, I think FlyQuest can stay the same, and I think that not too many people would complain.
Yeah, add a young top laner, make maybe a 6-man roster with a young player competing with solo, have a mentor that young player, and I think you have a roster that could improve. And if you get a top laner who can carry the top lane, that just adds another dimension, another edge to FlyQuest. And you can't just ban out Power of Evil, right? Or focus solely on the bot lane. Like right now, FlyQuest play in a really rigid style of the main carry most of the time is going to be Power of Evil. Santorin's going to be around that mid lane. So if you could add another dimension in the top lane, add maybe another player. And I think they wanted to do that with Viper. Viper was supposed to be that hard carry, Riven player and kind of change the dynamic of FlyQuest, and that didn't work out. So I think adding another, hard carry style top laner to the roster to go along with Solo's experience and his kind of style as well. I think we've seen in the history of League of Legends, teams that have two different style top laners can often find success. We've seen it with IG, we've seen it with SKT. Two top laner systems usually can work out more so than any other 6-man, 7-man roster. So I think FlyQuest is in a very good spot. And I think, again, applause to them. Again, the airport buff memes and all that, but they had an honorable death. They went down taking out TES, and I think before the tournament, no one would have thought they could have taken a game off those guys. So lots of kudos to them.